Imagine walking into a room full of people, but despite the crowd, you feel completely alone. No one seems to see you. No one seems to get you. And yet somehow, your heart thumps with a fierce longing to be truly known, truly accepted, truly loved. Deep inside, beyond your defenses, beyond your walls, there is a secret voice whispering, I want to be held. I want to be safe. I want to be seen. What if I told you that those who habitually pull away in relationships, the so-called avoidants, carry a yearning within them that is as human, raw, and beautiful as any desire in the most affectionate, open-hearted partner? What if that pulling away is not a rejection of intimacy, but a masked plea for a deeper connection they don't yet trust? Today, I want to uncover that hidden truth. I want to shine a light on what avoidant individuals secretly crave from partners who are real, vulnerable, and courageous. Because when someone who habitually distances meets someone who stands unwavering and authentic, a miraculous alchemy can begin. What if that transformation between distance and closeness becomes one of the greatest healings two hearts can ever experience? This is not a theory. This is a living possibility. The curtain lifts, the secrets breathe, and a new path is revealed, a path where avoidance meets authenticity, where defense meets depth, and where two people, one often frightened of closeness, the other brave enough to stay, learn how to build a bridge across the abyss. That bridge begins with 7 key gifts that avoidants don't always admit they crave, but will respond to deeply, even if they pretend otherwise. Are you ready to step into that space of light, of vulnerability, of possibility? Because right now everything shifts. In relationships with avoidant partners, the word safety becomes a sacred currency. But what many people misunderstand is that avoidants don't just crave calmness, they crave a safety so deep it isn't shaken by storms. They don't need perfection. They need something steadier than that, an unshakable foundation beneath them, even in their moments of pushing away. Unshakable safety means when the earthquake comes, emotional turmoil, fear, jealousy, crisis, you remain grounded. You don't disappear or lash out. You don't retract your care because of their defense. You don't make your love conditional upon them being calm. Instead, you become the constant, reliable presence behind the walls they build. Avoidants often carry an internal code that says, if I let someone in, they will break me. If I show weakness, I'll be abandoned. That's why they guard hard edges, resist vulnerability, and keep others at arm's length. But what they secretly crave is someone who stands not behind a fragile shield, but inside the storm with them, and doesn't flinch. To embody unshakable safety, you must train yourself to respond rather than react. When they distance, first breathe. Let your own impulse to chase, to shame, to retreat, to demand recede. Instead, anchor your presence in your inner calm. Make it clear, without ultimatums or pressure, that you will remain a steady light, even if the path between you dims. You become someone who says through your actions, I'm here. I'm not perfect, but I will not collapse because you feel afraid. This means holding your boundaries kindly. It means not tolerating abuse or dismissal, but also not retaliating when walls go up. It means smiling, listening, offering space, and consistently showing up. Over time, avoidants begin to test, will this person bail when I withdraw? Will they come back if I push? Your unshakable safety is the answer they're waiting to hear. Through your calmness, your patience, and your refusal to be shaken off by emotional earthquakes. As you cultivate this, your presence becomes a trustworthy anchor. They may still guard, they may still test, but every time they withdraw, they'll remember someone didn't vanish, someone stayed, and with that, the yearning in them begins to whisper, maybe this one is different. They don't necessarily demand perfection. They demand the courage to keep showing up when everything inside them screams to run. That is the gift you give when you choose unshakable safety over conditional calm. When someone distances, our instinct often is to issue ultimatums. You either commit fully or walk away. Many well-intentioned partners set hard lines. Either you stop pushing me away or this relationship is over. But for avoidance, ultimatums sound like threats. They trigger withdrawal. What they secretly crave is persistence laced with patience, not demands laced with pressure. Persistence doesn't mean nagging. It doesn't mean wearing someone down with grief, guilt, or emotional blackmail. Instead, it's the steady, calm resolve. I believe in this connection. I believe in you. I will continue to ask gently for your hand, for your presence, for your return, without making you feel forced. Think of a tree's roots pushing deep, unseen through heavy rock in search of moisture. The tree doesn't scream for a path, it presses on persistently over years until cracks give way. In emotional space, you become that deep root, patient, quiet, unwavering. Every withdrawal is met not by rage or withdrawal, but by a gentle reaching out again. Why? Because avoidants carry tremendous fear of coercion. If you demand, they dig in. If you pressure, they run farther. But when you persist with respect, never shaming, never pressuring, the barriers often begin to soften. Your consistent patience whispers, "I'm not here to force you. I'm here because I believe you may one day trust me." Persistent patience also means owning your own inner life. You don't put all your hope or identity on getting them to open. You lead your own emotional journey. You show that even in waiting, you are growing, you are living, you are whole. That steadiness is magnetic and disarms defenses. When avoidance tests you, persistence emerges not as desperation, but as confidence. I'll still be here if you choose to return. You offer invitations, not commands. You ask, not demand. You welcome, not shame. Over time, that kind of persistent patience builds a track record. You did not quit. You did not disappear. You kept the flame alive. And when they see that light never fully left, the secret craving stirs. Maybe I can come back. Maybe I can lean just a little. They may still pull away, but now the pattern shifts. More returns, fewer permanent exits. Over time, persistent patience becomes the bridge between their fear and your trust. And that bridge can transform avoidance into connection. When someone's walls go up, what they secretly wish for is someone who leans into them, not with force, but with a gentle asking, a curious heart, a safe invitation. Avoidants often expect interrogation, judgment, or emotional spikes. What they crave is curiosity with boundaries, an open question, not a demand, an invitation, not a siege. Curiosity with boundaries means asking from your own calm center, I wonder what you feel. I'm curious what's behind that wall. I'd love to know. If and when you feel safe enough to share, you lead with wonder, not accusation. You don't pry or pressure or demand immediate answers. Instead, you allow silence. You allow space. You allow, not yet, but your curiosity remains present. Boundaries are essential. You don't unleash the floodgates of your own emotional storms in response. You don't cross your limits. You don't demand your curiosity be fulfilled. You hold your questions with respect. You won't browbeat them. You won't guilt them. You won't collapse if there's no answer. You simply remain curious. That posture of curiosity feels inviting, not invasive. For someone with avoidant patterns, it signals, you are interesting. You are worthy of my interest. Even in your silence, I believe there's something behind that wall. Over time, that kind of curiosity can coax meaningful cracks in the wall. It can shift the dynamic from defense to dialogue. Crucially, curiosity can't be reactive. It must not arise from impatience or neediness. It must come from a place of groundedness. Think, even if you never answer, I'm okay, but I'd love to know. That kind of low-stakes asking holds far more power than high-stakes pressure. A caring partner says, I wonder where your fear comes from. I wonder what you need to feel safe. I wonder how I can be better. And then they wait, they listen, they hold space. Sometimes no answer comes, but the question is planted. And in relational soil, questions can grow into bridges. Over time, that curiosity becomes trust. The avoidant begins to see someone sees me, not just my defenses. Someone is willing to lean toward me, even in my silence. And that recognition can awaken the secret longing. Maybe I can let someone in. Maybe they'll see me, even when I pull away. Curiosity with boundaries turns the distance into an invitation. It doesn't force closeness. It simply says, I'd love to know you gently, at your own pace. And that is a gift of authentic love. In relationships, vulnerability is often misused as a lever. If you don't do this, I'll feel terrible. Or, you hurt me deeply, now you owe me. But avoidants recoil from that weaponized vulnerability. What they secretly crave is vulnerability as a sacred offering, a gesture of trust, not manipulation. To offer vulnerability sacramentally is to show your own inner world, not as a tool or threat, but as a gift. You reveal your fears, your longings, your imperfections, without demanding a rescue or immediate reciprocation. You say, this is me. I trust you enough to show you. I don't expect you to fix it. I only hope you'll see it and hold it. That kind of vulnerability invites mutual humanity. It signals, I am whole, even in my brokenness. I trust you not to exploit it. When avoidants see that kind of sharing without coercion, they begin to lower their shields. They sense something different, someone who doesn't use vulnerability to wield power, but to forge connection. Sacred vulnerability also means owning responsibility. You share your pain, but you don't blame or weaponize. You don't demand absolution. You don't turn it into ammunition. You offer it, and then you remain in your integrity. You don't recoil if they don't respond in kind immediately. You remain okay. This allows even someone with defensive instincts to lean in curiosity rather than fear. They see when I'm afraid, you show me your fear. When I distance, you don't collapse. You own your truth and still extend your hand. That shifts the field. It transforms you not into a volatile signal, but a reliable beacon. Sacred vulnerability becomes a model of how to lean into fear without shrinking. It says, I can risk being seen, I can risk being misunderstood, but I will still hold my heart. And that kind of offering tends to soften the hardest defenses. Over time, avoidance may begin to test, will this vulnerability be used against me? Will I be punished for leaning in? But your consistent sacred offering answers, no. You can lean with me, and I'll stay kind, honest, and present, even when it's messy. And in that gentle patience, the secret craving arises. I want someone I can show my edges to, not someone who recoils when I do. Vulnerability as a sacred offering thus becomes the magnetic counterpoint to avoidance. Not with force, but with love. There is a subtle line between sharing emotions and overwhelming. Flooding is when you unleash such a tidal wave of feelings, intensity, or pain that the other person drowns, retreats, or shuts down. Avoidance fear flooding. What they secretly crave is emotional transparency without flooding, the gentle, honest expression of your interior world in a way that invites, not crushes. Transparency means, this is how I feel. This is why it matters. Here is how it moves me. It's sharing your emotional experience, sadness, longing, fear, joy, without demanding immediate resolution or overloading the relationship. You don't use tears, fury, or manipulative theatrics to force the other to act. Instead, you let your emotional truth live in the space between you with dignity. To do this, you anchor first in self-regulation. You pause, breathe, center yourself, then speak. You may say, when I feel distance, I feel lonely. I want connection. I want us to feel close. I'm not sure how. I don't need you to fix it right now. I just want you to know. You leave the invitation open. You don't collapse if they can't respond fully. You don't guilt them. This kind of sharing builds trust. It shows you are safe with your own emotions. It shows you can feel without demanding. It shows that your heart is big, but not reckless. Avoidance may test, can I share? Or will I cause an emotional explosion? When they see transparency without flooding, they begin to let their own emotions breathe. Emotional transparency without flooding also means spacing your sharing, giving time, checking in. Can I share something that I'm feeling right now? You ask permission. You listen for receptivity. You don't dump without regard for their capacity. And when they aren't ready, you don't blame. They will hear it when they can. Over time, this pattern, clear emotion, paced sharing, responsibility, respect, creates a relational environment where both sides can express volatility, softness, humanity. And for someone with avoidant tendencies, that environment becomes a place they don't fear will implode. They begin to think, perhaps I can share a little. Perhaps they won't recoil. Ultimately, emotional transparency without flooding is the rhythm of real connection. It's how hearts speak without weaponizing. One of the greatest longings of someone with avoidant tendencies is, will you be there? Even when I'm not. They watch carefully. They test absence. They wonder if your love and commitment only apply when everything is smooth. What they secretly crave is consistency in presence, even when they're distant, even when they disappear. Consistency is not rigid predictability, it's reliability in your integrity. It means that even when they pull away, your love doesn't vanish. Even if they need space, your commitment doesn't become conditional. Even in their absence, you send signals. You are not forgotten. You are seen. I will be here when you return. This shows up in small practices, sending a gentle message. Thinking of you, not to guilt, but to keep the thread alive. Checking in when distance lingers, holding your own existence in your life so your presence doesn't depend solely on contact. Doing your inner work so absence doesn't destabilize you. When avoidants pull away, many people respond by disappearing too, hurt, offended, proud. But that binary, presence or absence. Dynamic triggers their core fears. They fear being chased or abandoned. However, when you maintain interior presence, calm, centered, consistent, you become that bridge, someone whose presence survives silence. Over time, they begin to see even when I vanish, someone still remembers me. That memory, that signal, that is a kind of safety. That kind of consistency begins to dismantle the false code inside that says, when I withdraw, I will be abandoned. Slowly, over repeated cycles, walls drop a bit more. Interruptions become recovery. Distance becomes a rhythm, not a rupture. Consistency in presence is a promise kept through action, small gestures, contact, calm centering, patience. It means not punishing them with silence when they pull away, but not abandoning your self-respect. You hold your ground. You maintain your emotional center. You stay in the behind the scenes, even if not always in the limelight. And over time, that consistency becomes a seen and felt gift. And in that gift, the avoidant hears something deeply needed: you matter to me, even when you are far, and I will still value you when you return. That is power. That is invitation. That is love. One of the paradoxes with avoidant partners is that they sometimes need space, not because they don't care or love you, but because their internal fear triggers a shutdown. In those moments, clinging, chasing, demanding are the worst responses. What they secretly crave is respect for retreats, with the safety of a standing invitation to return. Respecting retreat means when they say, I need space, you don't panic, you don't guilt, you don't issue ultimatums. If you go now, we're done. Instead, you respond with calms. I hear you. Take the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. You don't collapse. You don't disappear entirely, unless that is necessary for boundaries. But you step back with dignity and patience. But along with that respect, you hold an open door. You don't slam it, you keep the thread. You may say, whenever you feel ready, I'd love to reconnect. I value you. That is your invitation. Low pressure, no demands, but a signal that you haven't closed the possibility. For avoidance, this is miraculous. Someone says, I see your need to step back. I respect your interior process, and yet I still want you. This double signal, respect of invitation, is a powerful relational gesture. It says, I don't need to control your retreat, but I won't erase your place in my world either. During retreats, you may momentarily reduce contact, allow silence, give breathing room, but you don't disappear entirely. You use that time to tend to yourself, your growth, your calm, your work, so you come back not needy but renewed. And when they reappear, you don't punish them for the absence. You welcome them gently with openness. You don't make them pay for their leaving. You simply resume the connection thread. Over repeated cycles, avoidance test: will they slam the door if I retreat? Will they still want me when I return? When each return is met with kindness, steadiness, no shame, no recriminations, walls soften. Retreats become recoverable dips, not permanent breaks. The rhythm of coming and going becomes safe instead of threatening. In that dance, respecting their retreats, holding your heart, inviting return, you embody a relational container strong enough for fear to lean into. And that is exactly what avoidants secretly crave: someone who doesn't fear their retreat, but doesn't erase their value either. When both can dance with retreat and return, without punishment, without collapse, something sacred can take root, a connection deeper than defense. A love that knows the tension and holds space for both closeness and distance. That is the gift avoidants secretly yearn for, and that authentic partners can learn to offer. As we draw this journey to a close, I invite you to feel the weight and hope in what has just been revealed. The 7 gifts we've explored: unshakable safety, patient persistence, curiosity with boundaries, sacred vulnerability, emotional transparency, consistent presence, and respect for retreat with invitation, are not tactics. They are the architecture of trust. They are the language of healing when two hearts seek to span avoidance and authenticity. We live in a world where many relationships crumble at the first tremor of emotional intensity. Avoidants become hard to reach. Partners become frustrated or defeated. But the space between us is not a battlefield. It is a laboratory of transformation. When one person learns to show up with fierce gentleness, and the other learns to lower their defenses in response, the alchemy is profound. These 7 paths are invitations. Invitations to stay, not in the easy places only, but in the difficult ones. Invitations to make space for fear, but not fear itself. Invitations to love someone not for how open they already are, but for the potential you sense behind their guardedness. To commit not to perfect synchronicity, but to the willingness to try again after every fracture, every withdrawal, every storm. Imagine a relationship where distance doesn't mean disconnection, where retreats don't become endings, where your presence holds even when you're apart. Picture a love where someone who once ran learns to return, where someone who once built walls learns there's safer ground inside your steady heart. That is not fantasy. It is possible. It is accessible to those brave enough to show up, to wait, and to love with patience. If you are the one offering, cultivate your calm, your consistency, your curiosity. If you are the one who withdraws, consider the possibility there is a heart behind the walls waiting to be seen. And if someone dares to lean into your fear, maybe you can lean too. Let this speech be part mirror, part invitation, part roadmap. Let it rattle your defenses and awaken your willingness, because love that endures is not born in comfort, and it is not sustained by perfection. It is sustained by the courage to keep showing up again and again with integrity, humility, and heart. May each of you, whether giving or receiving, come to see avoidance is not a final sentence. Authenticity is not reserved for the fearless. Between two imperfect hearts, a bridge can form if both are brave enough to cross. Thank you for investing your heart and attention in this exploration. Thank you for leaning into the discomfort, for opening your mind to new possibilities, and for holding space for the complexity of love, distance, and connection. I hope you leave with new courage to show up, with steady presence, with open questions, with tender boundaries. May you be the kind of partner who offers light behind walls, and may you attract someone brave enough to receive it. Goodbye for now. May your journey forward be full of depth, growth, patience, and above all, authentic love.